Hey guys. Hey, hello, Lake Wales. Good afternoon, Sunday afternoon. We're here with,
Yes. Hello, Lake Wales. And this is the first time that the three of us are getting together after the election. So this makes it kind of special.
And it is a special day, that's for sure.
yeah, it is.
Quite an election.
Yeah, quite hard fought. And anyway, we've got a new interesting city commissioner. And
I tell
so,
you, the outpouring of support for Carol was really very encouraging to me. To see that Lake Wales is really the residents are actually starting to pay attention to what's being said by their commissioners and thinking about it and making some decisions about who they think really is going to lead them to where they want to go. And it was great.
well,
So
it was a pretty hard fought election. And I know that, Carol had a strong campaign team that did a lot of work for her. And so we really appreciate that. I think that us educating the community about issues, along with definitely Robert Connors with the Lake Wales News.com, and sometimes Billy Townsend kind of chiming in on stuff, and Gary White at the Ledger writing some, pretty interesting articles. It shows you the role that journalism plays in these kind of things. And I'm starting to call it citizen journalism, because part of the problem with little newspapers in towns these days is when they're trying to make a living at it, they have to sell advertisement. And when you have to sell advertisement, you have to be able to have relationships with the businesses in your community. And sometimes that makes you not so eager to do really hard-hitting investigative reporting, which is what's needed a lot of times in towns when issues are becoming difficult. So I think I would call what we're doing citizen journalism, and I think that contributes to a population that is more educated on issues.
Yeah, I like that phrase, and I think that three little ladies are moving it along. With regard to the election, I'd just like to say that I think that I think it sent a message to the commissioners. I hope it did, because Carol won resoundingly, and Brandon came very close. And I think it says that maybe there are more people out there than they think who are concerned about how they are voting at this time. I 2 or 3 weeks ago, I got up and I said, sometimes the minority represents the majority. And I think that we kind of showed that in this election, that maybe there is a growing majority out there that is looking for something different from this commission.
well, I would like to quote my little statistic here that I became aware of, that 2,328 people went to the polls to vote. And out of that, 60% of them did not vote for Williams. So that is a lot of people that were trying to send a message, at least about him. I wonder if maybe he might think now about the fact that he didn't show up to forums, didn't give people an opportunity to ask him questions. He missed something like 14 meetings in a 10-month period. I think we made people aware of the fact that they should take a look at this to see, what kind of government they were getting from this particular commissioner. And unfortunately, it wasn't quite enough to put Brandon over the line, but it certainly should send a message, I think, to Williams.
I think this was one of the most people talk about this as nonpartisan election, but since I've lived here, I've been here 37 years, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party have usually picked candidates and been involved. But this year it was really very confusing, because I know a lot of the Democrats that I know in town were upset with Daniel Williams and some of the decisions he made, and decided to support Brandon. And a matter of fact, I stepped down off the Democratic Executive Committee because I didn't want to be perceived as being part of that party apparatus when I supported Brandon. And so then, and then Daniel Williams, I felt like was more supported by the Republican leaning people in the community. And so it was very mixed up as far as like party affiliation. But I think that's healthy, actually, in this type of municipal election, that people were trying to support the people that they thought were the best for the election. We also had a lot of kind of outside influences coming into our election with these, what they call political action committees or PACs, where these people can drop these kind of crazy texts and expensive flyers. There were 4 flyers that went out about Daniel Williams that were kind of disturbing.
Well, that last one really got a lot of people angry.
Which one was that?
The California Carol one. It said, it was a smear, really.
Well, it was a text, right?
It was a text, right? But it went wide because everyone I know got it, and it was just a little hidden below the belt. I think people didn't like it, that kind of thing. It was over the line.
Well, there were actually 4 very, the most expensive kind of political advertising you can do is mailing. So there were 4 flyers that went out for Danny Krieger, and 2 of them were with him with Grady Judd. And then the last 2 were interestingly trying to position him as an environmentally friendly candidate, which in my estimation, he was not an environmentally friendly candidate. And I think that Billy Townsend, in his Substack Public Enemy #1, he sort of chronicled who these different PACs were, and they were from some fairly entrenched, higher up Republican political consultant firms that have these PACs. Yeah. And I don't have that information right in front of me, but if people are interested, they should go out and look for Billy Townsend, his article about it, because he chronicled pretty close. And his question was, who were the people that asked these these people to come in and to interfere in our local election?
His podcast is what does he call it? Public Enemy #1, or?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He does it on Substack.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Well, I think we should support people like that, because since it's very difficult to get investigative reporting for the reasons that you mentioned before. Somebody like him, he's looking into things and shining the light on a lot of things.
Yes.
Right. And I think it is pretty clear that the big development interests were concerned that he stay in that position, because he always voted for whatever it was, no matter what, and so I think the community is starting to coalesce around the concerns for the environment, and also for just their way of life. I think that unless we get a grip on this, did you want to talk about the actual numbers for the election so that people know what happened there?
Oh, well, the final official count was Brandon Alvarado had 939, and Crystal Higbee had 347, and Williams 943.
So there were actually, just so we set the stage, a lot of people don't understand there were actually 2 city commission seats up for re-election, seat 2 and seat 4. And we had a 3-way race in that one.
Yeah.
And then, Brandon Alvarado lost by 4 votes to Daniel Williams, who is the sitting incumbent.
Yeah, I don't have the Carol numbers, but I know that she won by over 300 votes.
Yeah, it was close to 350.
Yeah, definitely a big win.
And you know what? I think maybe what we should talk about now is some of what Carol may bring to the commission with her significant vote. And one of the things that she's concerned about, of course, is the growth and the water. Those two issues are things that come together. And water is become more and more of a problem. We brought it up at the last city commission meeting, and they agreed to have a town hall meeting on the subject so that citizens and experts, not just city people, but experts countywide, can come together and learn from each other. The basic issue is that we had a report 14 months ago which said that within 4 to 5 years we will run out of our permitted water capacity from Swift Mud. So now it's 14 months later, and that means it's 3 to 4 years, not 4 to 5 years. And we are no further along toward finding more water. The city has apparently been unable to drill any wells that will be effective, and they're going to have to join the Polk Water Cooperative, which is no doubt a good thing. And we don't know where that's going to go. We don't have a lot of answers. We can't sit here and give people answers, but we can tell you that you need to learn about it. And when they have that town meeting, you need to come.
Especially an opportunity for people to get answers and ask questions. Not like a presentation that they give at a commission meeting where you watch it and you have a million questions and you can't ask anybody those questions because you're not allowed. Whereas what you want to do.
Well,
can I ask
go ahead.
the Swift Mud, okay? I'm not sure that people who are listening would understand what Swift Mud is. Like you use that and the Polk Cooperative. Can you just, for really briefly, explain a little bit on how that water thing works?
I never can remember what Swift Mud stands for. Do you know, Catherine?
Swift Mud is the Southwest Florida Water Management District.
Okay.
And it is a Florida state department that is basically their job is to permit people that can pull water out of the aquifers. Because if people, first of all, they're in charge of permitting, water withdrawals, but they kind of try to balance it between the needs of the community and the fact that if we pump too much, then our lakes start to disappear.
Yeah, and it's a regional. It includes a handful of counties. It's not state. The whole state has regions, and ours is the Southwest one.
And I'm not sure how many. I think there may be 13 water management districts throughout Florida. They tend to be along watersheds. Ours is the Peace River watershed. And so we are also in there with some of the other counties down on the Peace River. The other thing is, apparently in 2016, this issue, Haines City and Lakeland, I think, have already surpassed their water permitting capacity. And I'm not sure exactly what they're doing to fix it, but countywide, there have been a couple of efforts. They tried drilling one of these. We have what they call the Upper Florida Aquifer, and then the lower, it's called the Floridan Aquifer. And so the upper part is the part that's sweet water. This is water that does not have brackish water. It's not got salt in it. But some of the lower Floridan, it does have salt in it because, we have ocean on either side of Florida that pushes in from the ocean. And so they're talking about that they're about to tap out the upper Floridan aquifer. And if they keep pumping more water, we're going to start losing our lakes. Mm-hmm. And so they want us, so the idea is that they can dig into the lower Floridan aquifer. Well, apparently the Polk County, tried to dig one of these wells up in the Four Corners area before 2016. And I think they may still use that well, but they could not use it the way they wanted to. So then they formed what they called the Polk Regional Water Initiative. And different cities, we have 17 municipalities in Polk County. Different cities have signed on at different levels of cooperation. And they have 2 well fields that they're going to dig. One called the Southeast, and I want to say one is It's the northwest. I think it's the northwest.
It's also south. It's south.
It's south. Okay, it's south. Okay, so it's southwest.
Yes.
But anyway, they started digging these test wells out off of Walcombe Water out of Lake Wales. And the idea is that they'll pump the water across under 60 to another plant where they will desalinate the water, and then they will inject the brine, that concentrated brine that they get out of that water, into what they call a deep injection well. And then they'll pump the water through pipes, and they've already done some of the eminent domain for this to Haines City and Lakeland. And so Lake Wales is talking about joining into that project, but that project is so expensive and it's already over budget.
And not only is it expensive, but we don't know for sure if it's going to work.
Right.
We don't know that they are going to be effective in this process. And if they are, we will have some water for the future going forward. If they're not, or if they're only partially effective, we will have to do much more serious conservation. Probably we need to be doing more serious conservation already anyway. So the point is, we don't know where this is going. One of my concerns is when that Orlando consultant brought us that last report 14 months ago, we don't know how much of future development he took into consideration when he was drawing his conclusions. And his conclusions were very iffy. He said, it might not work. So we need somebody to take a better look at how much development is projected and how much water might or might not be there, and talk about what we should do at this point.
Yeah, and reassess, because a lot of permits for developments have gone since that 14 months. Since then, more developments have been approved, right?
Yes.
Well, here's some other issues. Like, so if we they talked about this, doing our own wells in Lake Wales, which I, from the beginning I was a little dubious.
Yeah.
Apparently they were talking about digging into the lower Floridan in Lake Wales, and anyway, apparently they never dug the well. So when they said it failed, it wasn't like they actually dug. I think they asked for permits from SwiftMud, and SwiftMud said, well, you can do a test well, but that doesn't mean you can pump from it. So then now they're reassessing, going back with the Polk Water and Regional Water Initiative, but that's going to be like 1.5 million. And I've started looking at some of the financials and stuff that are on the Polk Water Initiative site. The total project cost for this thing is like $685 million at this point, and it's still not. I guess somebody said it was already over budget. So they're talking about Lake Wales assuming $1 million in debt to become a part of this project. I think it's going to be much, much higher than that.
It's going to be billions. To carry it to fruition for all of Polk County, it's going to be in the billions, and it's going to cost us money. We've got to get prepared for that.
Well,
and the thing is, some people say, at first they said that the water from this thing would be 3 times higher than our sweet water. But now there's projections it could be 5 to 10 times higher. So here you have your water here, and you start putting in that very expensive water. So what happens? The price of water starts escalating. And one of the things that we heard during this election cycle was people that are already struggling to pay their water bills. And so, this is where we have to, one reason why, and I think it's been disingenuous on the part of some of these people that are just wanting to, approve development after development, that what's going to happen when all of these developments come online, if they come online. Like, Florida is known for having these big cycles where there's land speculation and then they bust. And right now we have several of these large subdivisions that are sitting there where they've completely scraped them. Some of them, the water lines are half in and half out. All these around the city here. Some of them are from Winter Haven too. And there's no houses being built because.
Well, what I was going to say is, this just all what you're talking about. There's so much to talk about that having a town hall on it is something everyone should come to, because there are a lot of questions. Is it true that all of these orange groves, they were permitted a certain amount of water for their orange grove?
Yes.
And now if they sell their land, do they sell their water with it, or how does that work? That would be water that could be used by the city, right?
That's a question that we need answered, obviously.
Yeah, I don't think it was quite, I think the city thought it was going to be easier than it was. And somehow, I forget the exact mechanics of it, but it wasn't as straightforward as that this piece of property carried these kind of permitting for water, and then it just transferred over the city. So yeah, we need people, and also there's other issues too, like as they're bringing on these new subdivisions, the water pressure in some places is not good. Like the water pressure out apparently in Whispering Ridge, in some places, people that have upstairs bathrooms can't hardly use them.
Wow.
Because the water pressure is so low. I heard from a lady during the election who was she moved down here from New York because she thought that it would be a lower cost for her, and that her water bills are starting to eat her up. And people in her neighborhood were getting these odd bills. One person got a bill for $6,000. Another person got a bill for $1,600. And, some of these are probably irrigation leaks, but still, that's pretty extreme.
Yeah. Well, you've mentioned development more than once, and I think that maybe we should just update people just quickly about one particular development that we've talked a lot about in the past, and that is the Lake Alta situation. We don't know where that's going. We only know that it went back to the drawing board. We don't know if it's going to go back to planning and zoning, if it's going to come back to the city commission, if it's going to be dropped. We don't know. But people need to keep their eyes out for it. Not this week, but the next week is the next time that there is a CRA meeting. It's possible that it could be on that agenda, so people look out for it. It could be on the agenda for purposes of transferring the lake ownership to the developer. If not, I think it'll be a good sign that something else is being planned, and we just have to watch various agendas until something shows up.
And Charlene, I think it's important to note that the reason why it was now sent back for more to be worked on more is because the public came out and voiced their opinion about it.
They came out to that city commission meeting, and the city, they did not approve that planned development project that was brought to the city commission because
nor did the planning and zoning board turned it down twice. And that is what I think probably helped convince the city commission, although they claimed it was because it was the citizens who lived around there that influenced their decision. And I'm sure that was to a certain extent, but I think it was a good example of citizen activity. And I hope everybody that's listening to this takes some little encouragement from that in terms of what even one person can do in such situations.
Yeah. Yep.
So we've had this interesting election. We've had a change on the city commission. And now we hear that first of all, it used to be called the Planning and Zoning Department. And the director a couple of years ago, when we went through the issue of the plastic pipe, the ADS plastic pipe plant, was Mark Bennett. Mark left. Then they hired another gentleman. What is his name?
Brian Herman.
He was only there for like 3 months. I'm not even sure they gave him a chance to get his land legs. So then it became Autumn Coachella, who was actually one of the employees in that department. And I liked Autumn. You know, she's a local person. I think she has a heart for the Lake Wales Envision process. I think she is the potential for being a really great. And they changed the name of the department to the Growth Management Department, interestingly. But Autumn has resigned. And I'm not sure exactly when her last day is, but I'm really.
It's next Friday, this coming week.
Yeah, I'm pretty upset about that because I felt like she was our best hope for being able to implement some of this Lake Wales. And you know, she's young. She's got young children. I think it's been really stressful on her. So
she was very good at answering any questions.
Yes.
And she was very forthcoming, and
she was very responsive.
They're losing a good person.
I think so too. And I'm very nervous about who they will be putting in her place. So there's a lot going on. We had the city commission meeting this past Wednesday. I was really proud of Charlene for talking and asking for the town hall on water, and sort of the mayor Jack Hilligoss. I appreciated him at the end asking James Slayton, the city manager, to organize the town hall. And he said the people had spoken. And so, you know, and I believe, you know, perhaps, you know, Daniel Williams, who is now still our city commissioner, you know, he's not a neophyte anymore. He's not a newbie. He's, you know, gone through this before. So let's hope that he is a little wiser and a little better city commissioner now that he's had a little more experience.
I would just like to tack on to something we said just a little bit before, is that it seems to me that there is some hiring confusion or issues in the city, because we had that assistant or deputy city manager who was hired for she was around for like, I don't know, 6 weeks or 2 months, and she was fired. And then we had that Brian Herman, who was fired after.
Well, I'm not sure that these people were fired. We don't know that. You know, sometimes
we do.
Okay.
Yes, we do. Yeah, and so I'm just hoping that in the next go round of hiring a growth management director, that we're going to go through a really good hiring process in which they look in depth at the candidates and work really hard at making a good decision.
I think we should say that Autumn wasn't fired that we know of, right?
No, she was.
No, we don't.
She resigned.
Gave an explanation.
Yeah.
But I would love to be at her exit interview to find out why she's leaving.
Yeah. And I'm heartbroken about that, because I feel like she was a great employee and, you know, she's been in a very difficult situation for the last couple of years that we've been sort of involved, you know, with this process. And so I think that's a major loss for the city of Lake Wales. She was also starting to kind of revamp the zoning department, which I think is critical for a city to have a good zoning, code enforcement and zoning. Anyway, I think she's going to be a loss for our city.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot going on, and I think that it'll be interesting to see when they organize this town hall on water.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think there's a lot that we have on our plate coming up. You know, I'm taking a little bit of a break, just because I was sort of involved in the election some, and I'm sure y'all kind of feel like, okay, you know, what are we going to do now? You know, and I really appreciate all the work y'all have done.
Yeah. Well, regarding the election once more, I just wanted to briefly mention our mayor's Easter sermon that occurred 2 days or 3 days before the election, when he said that if you believe in the wrong God or no God, that your feelings don't matter. Not your tears, not your laughter, not your pain, not your joy. Life means nothing. It's just a pure, mindless power blitz in the blob of wherever you came from. I'm one of these people that he's talking about. I'll bet you maybe 80% of the people in our community are part of that mindless blob. I'm
I feel like
it really bothers me to think about that. It really does.
I wouldn't spend too much time on it.
well, but it is. I think what she is trying to say, and I do agree with her on it, is that these people that are up there as our commissioners and our mayor, they're people, and it's nice to know where they're coming from sometimes when they make their decisions. And if someone has that kind of an attitude about us, all of us, I mean, we're in this together, all of us, right?
Yes.
You have to keep an eye on it, because if he thinks that your opinions, that you're worthless, that's not saying much, as far as whether he's looking out for you when he makes his decisions or not. So I do understand what Charlene says, and I'm probably one of the bigger blobs that he's talking about too, but I don't care, because we have shown a light on a lot of things, and other people have helped also with news articles and everything, and we ended up where all of this dark money that came into the election, all of the silliness, with being at church with our mayor actually endorsing candidates, it didn't fool the majority of the people who voted. And that's the really important thing. So it's a step forward. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready to just run right forward.
Yeah. I think I will say one thing for Jack. He is very verbose, and he's a good speaker. He's a smart guy. He knows how to, to influence people's minds.
Mm-hmm.
I am a Quaker, and we say there is that of God in all people. So I feel that we need to be thankful when they do the right thing. I think he did the right thing about asking James Slayton to do a town hall on water.
Yes.
For whatever reason, he did the right thing. And I think that a lot of times when people see political realities change, they can change their positions, particularly if they're good politicians. So I find it a little bit amusing. I think that anyway, we can change political behavior.
When it came, I saw that Carol had won, and and I was there, when we found out that she won. I came home, and what kept going in my head? Yes, we can. That made me feel like, wow, you really can change things. Sorry.
Yes, I definitely think that we, in the beginning, were sort of like, how do we even affect change here? None of us will get 100% of what we want, but if we don't try, we'll get nothing.
Yeah.
And so I do believe, and I think that it's very important that we try to stay off the personalities. It's much easier to fight over these kind of side issues like, oh, he goes to that church, I go to this church, he thinks like this, he does it. We've got serious issues ahead of us. We've got all of this development breathing down our neck. We have serious, serious water problems that even in the best, I'm not sure how we're going to solve them. So that the average person can afford water. So I think that the more that we focus on the issues at hand and how to solve them, some of them are almost insoluble, to tell you the truth. We need jobs for all these people that they're bringing here. we need to upkeep our current infrastructure. There's so many issues. But I'm excited that the community seems to be not just being gullible for everything that's being put out there for them.
So, well, we'll monitor it all as time goes forward.
I know. Well, it's fun working with you guys, and we'll have another.
Can I say one thing, Catherine?
Sure.
A lot of people do comment on the three little ladies when they're on Facebook, when they're on YouTube. And I just wanted to put out there the idea that perhaps if there are things you would like to hear us talk about, people might want to put that in the comments. If there's things they are not understanding or something that we said that they wanted clarified, it wouldn't hurt for them to comment and give us that information, that feedback.
Good idea.
All right.
Okay.
Have a great
fun up there in North Carolina.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Give me a minute to turn off this.